You spoke about this in an article. Can you talk about the most fascinating job you've worked on and what your process was like in building out these characters? And how does your own perspective as a Black woman inform your understanding and development of the characters?
Well, I think that I've worked on so many fascinating projects I've been blessed to be a part of. One that sticks out in the context of this conversation would be probably The Color Purple. That was such a beautiful project to be a part of because although it was an adaptation, not necessarily a remake, our director, Blitz Butzwaldy, he was very adamant about, and this is why one of the reasons why I joined the project, he was very adamant about seeing the beauty in the characters through their pain that they've gone through. So with him saying that, I was in charge of doing Danielle Brooks's makeup for the film, and she played Sophia. So with that being in the back of my mind, as I was reading the script, and of course, I saw the original Color Purple. I was not a big fan of it. I love the story itself, but just the visuals, it just took me through an emotional journey at such a young age where I'm like, I can't deal right now. So to have a refreshing set of eyes to be a part of it, when I read the script, I was like, okay, how would I see her through the eyes of someone who was my mother or aunt or someone during that time? So I would just pull from there. I did a lot of research as far as the time period and what colors they had access to and just how we could shoot it in a way where the colors can be vibrant. Even when she was in the scene where she had gotten beaten up by the police, again, Blitz was like, can you do this in a way? He's like, I know it sounds weird, but not that she looks deformed or that there's still some beauty there. So I intentionally was thinking every time I look into someone of color, they have beautiful sheens to their skin. The dimension, the way the light hits, it's like a natural glow that they have that just encompasses their skin. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use certain serums to pop that out. She doesn't even need to have a crazy amount of blood or such on her eyes. So we did the bruising, did everything like that, but I really made sure that when the light hit, her beauty just showed through all the pain that she was going through. So I've been very intentional about doing things like that because we are all layered characters in real life, of course. So I just feel like I always pull from my personal experiences that people have shared with me. They're good, bad, and ugly, of course, but it's the truth, and I try to honor that through the makeup instead of covering things up to look glamorous. If you see, it's like second skin what makeup is. So, the process of reading the script, and then I have an idea. Danielle had an idea. Thank God we were on the same page with that idea, and then coming along with Blitz, our director's idea. It was just like pure magic that we were all on the same page with trying to convey that character. So I would say that would be the most fascinating because us as a department, and especially with Carol Rashid, who was the department head at the time, and I was the key makeup artist, we were all on the same page of like, we're gonna have truth. The makeup isn't gonna be thick. The way we aged everyone, we had 40 years. We didn't want to do, fake appliances on everyone to have them look like they have wrinkles because people of color, we don't age that way.
Yeah.
Like I was just speaking with a wonderful young woman in the lobby, and she was telling me her age and I'm looking at her skin like, you are not that age. Your skin is beautiful, So, and if we saw her 40 years ago, I'm sure her skin would look just as beautiful as well. So it's just like we just wanted to keep that realistic thread through people of color and what we naturally age like, and not look like a spectacle on screen.
Incredible, thank you. So I wanted to move to Zoe Charlton, who I've been a big fan of your work for many, many years now. And, the work that I've known of your practice for many years was really around drawing Black women's bodies connected to surrounding adornments and landscapes, flowers and foliage, southern landscapes and suburban housing, sort of growing out of the women's bodies directly. And more recently, your work in sculpture has presented versions of a life-size Cameroonian statue that you spoke about finding in an antique store and naming Sib or sibling, as you immediately identified the sculpture as a sibling or kin. You've created replicas or abstractions of the sculpture juxtaposed with small replicas of suburban houses or landscapes and foliage. And you've spoken about the way these works are considerations for the way that capitalism and power have been extractive of the Black body. So your incredible new public artwork, Third Watch, which is the first work in the Inviting Light series, a project facilitated by Central Baltimore Partnership in partnership with Neighborhood Design Center in the Mayor's Office and with funding from Bloomberg Philanthropies and the National Endowment for the Arts, as well as the Maryland Department of Housing and Community. This work occupies a massive amount of space beneath the Arc, installed atop North Avenue Market. And so what does it mean to install these life-scale works at this monumental scale in the city of Baltimore where you call home? And think about your connection to these sculptures at the same time as there has been a global momentum around this concept of the restitution of African cultural heritage, and this sort of political imperative around returning objects like this to their context of origin.
Thank you. That was loaded. Super loaded. But I would like to start first by just acknowledging the opportunities that artists create for other artists. And I am honored to be on a panel with Dr. Joyce Scott because, and you should know this, that when my spouse and I first moved here, I was you presented me with a fellowship, and in honor of your mom, Elizabeth Talford Scott. And I laugh sometimes and I say, oh, I could have bought shoes with it. I could have done all these things. And my spouse and I were at the Creative Alliance as inaugural artists. And Joyce presented me with this fellowship, and I used it to purchase a video camera. And that's why I started making video and animation. And so, and I say it again, artists support other artists in ways that are often invisible. And thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you. That also leads into the experiences that I've had over the last 25 years where I've been able to evolve and add breadth and depth to my practice. And it's always with the encouragement and support of other artists. And the Inviting Light Project is one such example that's curated by Derek Adams, it's supported by Bloomberg Philanthropies, all the things that you said, Rashida, and through the Mayor's Office with the Central Baltimore Partnership. So many people came together to do that. And so I had an opportunity to re-envision an object that I've been working with for about 10 years now. And yes, I did find that sculpture in an antique store in Denver, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour plus north of here. And I was specifically looking for a sculpture that was my height, that I'm 5 feet tall. And so I was, the ancestors spoke. And there it was one day. And I drove up, I left work, I drove up, which was an hour away from here, and then I drove an hour there, purchased it, and came back home and thought, what do I do with it? But I had this opportunity to turn it into something and turn it into something else. It's been the subject of drawings, it's been the subject of collages, Civ has been a lot of different things. And I am consistently looking for my doppelganger, my obseity, my twin. And I am a twin. And I have 7 sets of twins in my family. So I am a twin. And so, but to find Civ was really meaningful. I worked also with Paradise Labs, and so it was really important that I worked with fabricators in the city, because I'm always thinking about how an economy can support itself, right? I want to think about those art dollars and how they continue to circulate through community, and so that's my own politic that I hold onto very tightly here. And so this question though about how this piece comments on repatriation is a really interesting one, but it isn't mine. And I think that becomes really important, and Rashida and I talked about this briefly before the panel. And the reason why I'm saying that it's not mine, I think that it belongs to other people to talk about repatriation, right? Because what that conversation does when pressed upon Black American artists is it assumes that we have no right to certain kinds of imagery or histories, right? And that object, that form, is a part of my cultural inheritance, my diasporic kinship. And so when you talked about kin earlier, that word resonates for me because that diasporic kinship is more than an aesthetic one, and it's more than a political one. It is actually a biological one. And I am returning to a theme. I am returning to an idea. I am investing in a history that I too can continue to amplify. And so I think that that becomes a really interesting friction that Black American artists in particular have as we work with and through images that have deep resonance for us. I am not a cultural speaker, but I am a cultural activator. And I think that I think it's an important distinction that we have to hold on to as Black American artists.
Thank you so much. And just so everyone knows, I asked her a question to hear that response.
She's a plant.
No, I mean, I just think about those objects as almost a metaphor for our experience, right? Like, what does it mean to be divorced from your context of origin? And I think that we are the ones who can reconnect and imbue that new meaning. And I just wanted to highlight that we had an image here of your work. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Kim, I wanted to move to you, and I'm so thankful that you said yes to participating in this, especially as you said you don't speak as much publicly about your practice, but that you are working here in Baltimore, doing, working on projects that are shown all over the world, but that you're able to do that work here locally and grounded in your hometown. And so I really wanted to ask you about the kind of work that you do as part of what I'm noticing as an important movement, actually, of Black women costume designers and supervisors. Because we know of Ruth Carter, right? I think it's really exciting that she's been able to have that visibility, and it also opens a visibility for the many Black women, or I would say this next generation of Black women like yourself, who are doing this important work as costume designers and supervisors working in television and film. And I'm really interested in your creative process and what it takes to make the work you do for the screen, which really allows the viewer into such layers of detail quite differently from theater, for example, right? That you see so much of the work that you do, we see quite closely. It helps us to understand who the characters are. And so I'm particularly interested in the projects that you've led, which have taken place in this landscape, Baltimore and the DMV, and how you project a creative and authentic feeling into the aesthetics of your characters. Can you share with us what your process looks like from research to manifestation, and how you explore each character's story in your work? And what has it been like for you working on these film sets?
Thank you. I would say that my creative process is very similar to Ghazi's in that we get a script, we break it down, we read it once, we read it again, further break it down with lots and lots of questions to take to the director, to take in their vision, how they see those principal characters and such, and then we go back to the mood board, the drawing board, as per se, and start building looks for each character, whatever their dynamics are. Well, who are they? Where do they come from? What's their economic background? What's their education? Where do they live? Where do they fit in the family? So all those things come into taking shape for making the character and creating that look head to toe for them. So if there were like a character like Cleo Johnson from Lady in the Lake, right? She came from the bottoms of Baltimore in the 1960s. And so she would not have a whole bevy of coats in her closet for every day. She would have one hero coat that practical takes her through, you know, unless until the arc of her story might change. Maybe her economic background may change, her economic situation may change. So, or versus Maddie, who also in Lady in the Lake came from, you know, country club. So her closet is very, very full. So we build closets per character, and we pull and shop from those to take them through their story, through their arc, through the story of the script. For some other Baltimore projects, like I started on The Wire as a set costumer. This is many, many, many moons ago. And that was my start in the business, and have worked on other great, great projects, like We Own This City, where we, you know, reenacted that whole incredible storyline that occurred here in Baltimore that everyone is aware of. I also worked on Charm City Kings, which is a great story about, you know, the 12 o'clock boys. And so that authenticity, finding, you know, making sure that we are capturing those characters authentically, you know, with me being here in Baltimore and knowing what Baltimore looks like, you know, or it helps to shape those characters more authentically. Also, I work on a lot of projects that come through DC, so I have to also then know DC, because there's a lot of shows right now that are filming over in the UK and in Hungary that come to DC to do their DC locations. So exteriors that cannot be replicated elsewhere. And so there are, you know, there's a very DC look that comes about, and I help to shape that look for those shows. So we should film at the White House, we film at the CIA, we film all around the whole memorial of DC and like the reflecting pool. And so helping to shape that for those people for those productions that just don't know this area, I help to lend perspective to really have an authentic look for those characters. Let's see, I don't know what else to share there. But, you know, it's just, I study humans, you know, and so my whole point in what I do in the creative process is understanding humanity, understanding the who, what, when, what makes them, and journey through their looks head to toe, and those have to match and make sense and be authentic. And you know, I'm working with a director right now on a really wild project, and I have to kind of bring him down to earth sometimes. Like, you know, these are like real characters that we're looking at, you know, and creating, and we have to. So I help to kind of tone him down with that, because he's just, which is brilliant that he's really wild. So we meet in the middle and make it happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to move to Dr. Joyce Scott, and I've been a long, long admirer of your practice, and it was such an incredible opportunity for all of us to see your exhibition at the Baltimore Museum of Art, which was epic. And you know, and this, for those who didn't get to see it, her show was called Walk a Mile in My Dreams, which was a career retrospective of you know, one of our most prolific and boundary-breaking artists of this time. And you know, when your work was written about, they talked about how you use humor every bit as much as art to open up difficult conversations about race and inequity and to build community here in Baltimore. I also have been mentored by some of your Baltimore girls, Lowry Stokes Sims and Leslie King Hammond. And so it's beautiful just to see the interconnectedness of, you know, artists and curators, and also the exhibition of your mother's work, which was also on view at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And really just to experience the many ways of your working. You know, as a performance artist, I was like really obsessed with and stayed with the films of your performance art that you made, I believe it was in the late 80s or early 90s, the Thunder Thighs work. And so,
Review is at the end of that, we just weren't walking around thunder thighs.
it was,
People scared, we're scared of that.
people were scared. And I remember that time also. And so it was just incredible to see the many ways that you've worked to have a commentary about not only just the societal issues, but really Black women's lives and Black women's concerns. And so I really wanted to ask you just about what it means to you to be making work today. What is most important to you in your practice today? And, you know, what do you spend most time with in terms of your medium? Because we saw, and I'll go back to this image as well, we've seen the work that you've made that also is in fashion, in building out installation and spaces, you know, as well as the sculpture. And so I wanted to ask, what are you working on most right now, and what is most important to you conceptually and in society in your practice?
Firstly, I would like to say how amazingly honored I am to be on this panel as the geezer or the grand dame. So that shut up, babe. Be quiet, bitch. At 76, I hear you talking and it echoes many of my desires and triumphs in my life. And to also know at 76, being born right after the Second World War, I was alive and understanding what it was like during the civil rights movement and hippie time and everything, when the things that we take for granted now were not available to us at all. And we are the manifestation of dreams by our parents and grandparents that they were either not allowed to have or allowed to make happen. So that for me is just, it's just an amazing era that I am in. I'm talking circles, so I'll get to that point. One of the things that I wanted to say as I was listening is that I do a lot of work on politics and social issues. And probably the biggest political stance that I can take is to truly be myself. Is to be an African American woman from Baltimore and actually be proud of that and thrive as that in a time where we wish to be other things, which I'm not upset about. If you want blue hair, none of these things, because I did it, it's allowed that I did that. But to be flat-footed, standing as an African American woman and artist who makes the work that I know or am pursuing and are proud of being who I am is such a statement, especially with the politics that are happening right now in our country. So when you ask what I'm working with, I started one exhibition where that necklace is from. The name is Messages, and the necklace's name is War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. So I did that. I made pieces for that show on clothing. And then after that, I started working on the retrospective. That was here, a 50-year retrospective, and then went to Seattle, Washington at the Seattle Art Museum. I did so much work that talked of, firstly I looked at the retrospective, you're looking back at your life and saying, really? And I did so much of that and travel connected to both of the exhibitions and also the politics that were happening at the period that I decided to do work on beauty. So what I've done is stopped doing lynching for a while, and I've done lynching for a while, can't even pronounce it. But stop maybe doing things on equality and all of those things for a second, and just luxuriating in beauty. Just allowing myself to wallow in color and form and design, and to tap into that part of myself that will not only make me grow and evolve as an artist, but give myself an actual rest. And self-care is very important for all of us. But for artists, it can be very important. She talks about finding work. That's a grueling thing to do. The work that everybody does has, you see, another thing that folks have a misconception about with artists is that we wake up and I'll make a thing, and I'll do a thing, and I'll be a thing. It's hard work. And if you're doing a job with others, then you either have to supervise them, be supervised by them, work at their schedule, make this thing, garments, whatever, makeup, oil. You have to do these things. So I took a break from that. I'm working on something that I've been working on for over a year, made out of tiny Japanese beads. It's gorgeous. It's driving me crazy. And just to be able to be in love with it, you know, is what I am doing. I just wanted to say, because we have such great examples on stage, that, and this is those who've heard my lectures know this is the one life we know we have as a human. You may come back as a butterfly. You may come back as body fluid. And you children in the front row, so I won't even elucidate on what that could be. You could be everything else the next time, but if I'm here as this person with this knowledge, and the fact that people didn't just work hard to put me here, they died to put me here, then I'm gonna run it down. And I'm gonna make artwork about beauty when I wish to. And I'm gonna make artwork about politics and feminism and whatever else I want to. And the other thing I want to say to you is never stop, because when you're talking about my past, my history as an artist, I performed because the visual work wasn't saying what I needed to be said. So theater did, and that's what we did. I do jewelry not only because I can make money at it, because, and for these folks who make wearable stuff, you know that you are involving the wearer in your conceit. They have to talk about, they have to be a part of your idea. And in that you can sneak things in, or be very open and big about the messages that you wish to send to people. And you can make money. I've never been broke. I shouldn't have said that, because tomorrow then I'll be broke. Because I come from sharecroppers who always made something out of nothing, a way where there was no way. And that's something that I believe we have to continue in these rocky times. So when I say I'm very proud to be here and on this panel, it is because I am with younger folks who are doing amazing things. I mean, come on. She doesn't even look like she's old enough to have done, to see the color purple, and she worked on it. The Wire, what were you, 8 years old? She's been on TV a couple of times doing his shows. I mean, this is amazing.
It really is.
And so if I could put my foot in the door and open it for someone else, that's why I'm here, and of course I expect the same from others.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can I make one more thing? I have to give a shout out to two people who have been very important in my career. George Sissel, who's standing by the door, who just now wants to run out because I pointed out, was the curator for my mother's exhibition and for my first retrospective at the Baltimore Museum of Art. He was highly instrumental in getting the anniversary of my mother's exhibition at the BMA. And think about that, folks. Two African-American artists showing simultaneously in two different shows, not lumped together in one show, but two different shows. And then the students from the curatorial practice did 8 different exhibitions around this city. And my gallerist, the person from Goya Contemporary, Amy Reyes, right here, who was not only instrumental in the exhibition, like George, but also sells a lot of my work.
Very important, thank you. Thank you.
And they would beat me up if I didn't do it.
Well, in the last 8 minutes, I want to take an opportunity to ask everyone if you could speak to your younger self, just something to inspire the young people that are here. I'm inspired by seeing your children in the front row. My daughter is here also, my niece, and so I would love to just let them walk with a piece of your wisdom. I'll start with you, Bishop.
One thing that I would tell my younger self, or if I could tell them, I tell myself this all the time, never lose your imagination. Make sure you feed your imagination as much as possible. Feed your imagination when you're mad, sad, especially happy, but feed it. Your imagination helps you process and allows you to see things that's further beyond what you see with your eyes now. So that's what I would add.
Great. I think mine would be like talking to my kids right here. Trusting the path. When I was younger, I would always think that I had like this I was into treasure maps, and I feel like, life is like we meet people who maybe are little treasures. Some of them you may want to, toss off the boat, get on your nerves, but I feel like that they all lead you to, your final destination, and that nothing is by accident. As crazy and as painful as some things may happen, like you may want something that didn't come out the way you may have thought. It is all for a reason. When you zoom out onto that map, you're like, oh, that led me here. Like, here we go. So I would just say that just, trusting that path and that journey. Chad, I swear, every time I'm talking to him, I don't know. But yeah, so no, that would be my.
Thank you. It's leading you to your destination.
Leading you to our destination, right? There it is.
I think what I would say is, take your curiosities, tangents, and impulses seriously. That something will land, and I always trust that something lands in my studio, and so I love my impulses, I love my tangents, I love my curiosities, and I nurture them. I take the time to nurture them.
Hi. I would say to my younger self that I do have a voice. I'm the youngest of 5, but there's a big gap between us, and I've spent a lot of time by myself, playing by myself. So very imaginative spirit. But it's taken me a while. I'm still working on it, projecting that voice. I definitely am working on that, and so I would definitely say that too. And I want to thank my family for being here today, because they always support me and push me. My brother's in the back, he's a painter, and my 2 cousins here in the front. But without them, I'm so grateful to have them, being able to lend my voice.
Do they give you money? I can tell you that I was sitting here thinking, is this really what you would say to yourself? Because I guess it is, because the first thing that came to me was stay black. Now, how can you be other things? By that I mean the knowledge that you are equal to anyone. You are as beautiful as anyone. You deserve as much and the rights as everyone else. And stand in that and demand it. And I don't necessarily mean go up to someone and shake them. I mean, be that person who is well educated, who is well spoken, who looks good and can stand and speak to others, and be that knowledgeable person that your grandma would go down. That's my baby. That's who I would say to myself.
Thank you. So we're gonna stay black for the rest of this day at Archetype.
Sorry about that.
And I'm so thankful. I just want to give another round of applause to these incredible artists. So thank you so much for sharing your process here, your wisdom. And thank you again to the organizers of Artscape. I think Tanya has left, but thank you to everyone who organized this and has continued to work on it. And everyone enjoy the festival. Have a great day.